Some games never die, no matter how boring they may seem. Somehow, they manage to captivate players with an irresistible blend of addictive gameplay, exciting events, and a passionate community that refuses to let them fade away. And one such game, which has survived against all odds, is none other than Maplestory. This 2D MMORPG, with its cute look and easy-to-play style, has stayed cool for over 2 decades, gathering a bunch of loyal fans who just can't quit. But what's the secret behind this boring game that still has such a big following? Let's find out. Want to play a game where you can level up your characters, team up with friends to fight monsters, and collect cool items? How about something easy to get into since it's 2D and you don't have to spend ages traveling from place to place? Well, after a hard day's work, other than all those cozy games, I've got just the game for you. Welcome to Maplestory. Maplestory is a free 2D MMORPG made by Nexon, a Korean company. You've probably heard of it because it's been around for 20 years and they still update it regularly. It's got all the stuff you'd expect from an RPG, ways to make your items better, things to do with friends, and around 40 different classes to pick from, each with its own unique playstyle. Back in 2005, this quirky 2D side-scrolling MMORPG with its friendly vibe won over loads of fans, known as Maplers. And get this. According to Steam, it's got a whopping 260 million players worldwide. Now, even though it might seem like a basic game, its popularity has shot up in recent years. Just check out this chart. Between December and January, the number of players spiked by over 70%. But why do people give it a shot and end up sticking around? Well, there are a few ways to answer that question. How does a game keep being popular for 20 years? The key to Maplestory's lasting popularity is its simple but super addictive gameplay. In its simplest form, Maplestory is just a classic MMORPG where you create your own character, level up, get new skills and gear, and go on quests to battle monsters. But what makes Maplestory stand out is how easy and fun it is to jump right into the action. For example, its key goal of the game when you first start is just about killing monsters and dealing damage. Nothing more, nothing less. Unlike other games that make you spend hours getting ready, Maplestory lets you dive straight in with just a few clicks, and just recently, leveling has been designed to be easier than ever. You can even skip the tutorial section when you start a new character. Admittedly, this repeated gameplay loop is foundational in creating a dopamine high gameplay loop. This is what users consider a good core gameplay. This guy on Reddit has this to say about it. The core gameplay, I think, is very solid and has the option to be extremely low-stress commitment. Maple has it set up so you can make steady progress towards the end game, at least on reboot, just by doing daily quests and weekly bosses. This whole cycle of killing, leveling up, and getting better gear is super addictive and satisfying. Every little boost in your character's stats gives you that rush of excitement that keeps you hooked. It's like a constant reward that makes it really hard to put the game down. Beyond its core gameplay, Maplestory isn't just about doing this simple progression cycle once, but multiple times. It's got loads of different character classes, each with its own unique style of play. So there's something for everyone. And as you keep playing, you can unlock even cooler abilities and play styles through class updates. For example, transferable world skills that boost your character when one of your other character unlocks a certain level. That's a big bonus because with almost every update comes a new event. And every 6 months, they bring out big updates with even bigger events. These events usually add cool stuff to the game, like new maps, missions, and tougher monsters. Throughout the years, these new events that come up have amassed a community that supports Maplestory without wavering. Players have made guides, from detailed spreadsheets to web tools where you can plug in your character's info and get all sorts of useful calculations. What's really cool is how active the community is, with new content creators and players joining every day. People who love MMOs are some of the most passionate gamers out there. They often stick with one game for years, like the player who spent over 800 hours leveling up in Maplestory. You see, even though some might think the game gets boring, most Maplestory players believe the real level cap is 275, even though you can technically reach level 300. That's because those last 25 levels are crazy hard to get through. But this player didn't let that stop them. They reached level 295, and now they're aiming for level 300 by the end of 2024, which would make them the first player ever to hit that milestone in Maplestory. Regardless, after several years of playing and over 800 hours just to go from level 294 to level 295, this player has already made history. But the thing is, this game acts kind of strange. Over the years, its fans keep coming back, then disappearing again, like a cycle. And for many players, this back and forth feeling, like a dance between being bored and feeling nostalgic, is what keeps them hooked. Play for the nostalgia, stay for the FOMO, another Reddit user said, and perhaps that sums up Maplestory's movement quite well. That first dive into Maplestory's colorful and fun world left a lasting impression on their memory, creating a nostalgic bond that pulls them back again and again. It's not a perfect relationship, though. As time goes on, many of these veteran players get bored. Progressing becomes a chore. Their motivation motivation wanes, and they take breaks from the game, looking for new challenges elsewhere. But like a spell, nostalgia eventually brings them back. The feeling of leaving a character unfinished, of not progressing as they wanted in the past, pulls them back to Maplestory. The game has changed over the years, making progression smoother and more satisfying. Combined with the emotional connection players have with the game, it keeps drawing them back, ready to immerse themselves in that colorful, familiar world once again. It's like Maplestory has cracked the code to keep players coming back. A mix of nostalgia, easy progress, and that fun factor that brings them back, even after a break. Players don't see this as a problem. They embrace the back and forth as part of the game's charm. It's what keeps them interested, even when the game loses its shine. And for many players, more than you'd think, Maplestory is an escape. It's their go-to game for unwinding without the stress of tougher titles. They call it their chill game, a place to log in for a quick session and relax. It's that moment at the end of the day when they need something easy to wind down. And Maplestory's own gameplay pace seems to be designed to provide that sense of calm and relaxation. As one player puts it, I enjoy doing bosses with my friends. Also, the sense of progression that is given with the 6th job, for example. Every hour, 2 hours, you can add some damage to your character. That constant progression, that feeling of gradual advancement, provides a satisfaction that contrasts with the frustration that can come from a random item drop system. But even with those kinds of frustrations, Maplestory still attracts those looking for a space where they can simply smash some things when they're feeling down. It's not so much about progress or quests anymore, but that moment of catharsis where they can release tension in a relaxed and uncomplicated way. More than a boring game, it's a game of, I have an hour or two and I'm in a bad mood. Let's smash some mobs until I feel better than something fun. Perhaps that's the answer to why it still attracts people to its ranks. But with this game, it's fascinating to see how, despite being considered boring or unexciting, it manages to develop a base of loyal followers who refuse to let it die. Sure, when looked at from the outside, it's easy to dismiss Maplestory as a simple, repetitive game, lacking the innovation and polish that characterize modern-day titles. After all, its 2D aesthetic and basic gameplay seem to lag far behind the graphical advancements and complex mechanics that now dominate the gaming industry. However, Maplestory has demonstrated a tenacity and adaptability that few other games can match. Over more than 2 decades, it has managed to maintain a community of players who, far from being discouraged by its apparent simplicity, have clung to it with growing fervor. And the key to this lasting success lies precisely in that quality, which may seem like a flaw at first glance. Maplestory's simplicity, immediate accessibility, and addictive progression cycle have created a gaming experience that, while not revolutionary, is deeply satisfying and comforting. Because sometimes, in a world filled with bigger and more complicated games, what players really want is something simple, familiar, and comforting. A place where they can just jump in without any fuss, where they can get that instant satisfaction from slaying monsters and leveling up. And as long as there are players who enjoy that simplicity and familiarity, boring games like Maplestory will keep finding ways to stay important and stand the test of time. Because at the end of the day, the real magic of video games is in their ability to keep players hooked no matter how simple or repetitive they may seem. What's your favorite boring game? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content about your favorite games. See you next time.